What's up, fam? Welcome back to Snapback Bets. This is the NFL Divisional round, and this is our betting preview, our best bets for the round. I'm Jack Settleman. We got the intern. And in New York, we got this pretty new studio, which is going to wash away any bad picks that we've had in the past. Did you hit yours last week?
Next question.
Next question. Tim, give us the full recap from Boston, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. The sky is still blue, which means Casey obviously won. He laid it with the Bills. Betting the NFL is easy. Big favorites. They cover. Jack had the Commanders +3, a dog that did bark this past weekend. Uppy had the Chargers. He takes an L. And I had the Green Bay Packers. I take an L. 2-2 for the group. On the season, Jack 8-10, Casey 12-6. Uppy 11-9, Tim 7-11-1. No one cares about licking wounds or Casey gloating. You could just go back to any previous episode to watch that.
No one cares about me having Ravens in the under and threading that needle that was discussed on the previous show. I don't get a 3-0.
No.
Okay. All right.
On that note, I do want the record to show that I said my best bet was Rams-Packers first half under. Couldn't have been easier. So I'll take
Rams-Packers.
Hey, I respect that. I respect that. Yeah.
Eagles-Packers. I'm thinking about my pick on Eagles-Rams. Apologies.
Okay.
Why couldn't you give that out? Like, we're not in the contest anymore. You are legally allowed to give any pick you want. So this week, give out your winner, okay?
No, I'm actually nixing Tim's best bet of the week as his pick. He has to give something better than that.
Why? What's his best bet?
Under 6.5 punts.
No, that's fine. What's wrong with that?
Well, if you want that bet, go watch Early Bets, which was posted earlier in the week. You can find that on this channel. But should I start since I'm one of the greatest of all time?
Go ahead.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I am going back to a big favorite. I'm going with the Chiefs. I believe it is 8.5 most places right now. We talk a lot about rest versus rust. I think when you have a team like the Chiefs. Now, it is 2 consecutive weeks without playing because they obviously rested all their guys against the Broncos. So could that play a bigger part? I'm not, just because of the sheer, what is the word I'm looking for? When you do it a lot.
Magnitude.
Experience that Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, that whole team possesses. So I don't think they're going to – what is so funny?
You didn't even make a point, and you started fighting yourself on that point.
Wait, why am I fighting?
Like, you were like,
oh, well, yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't think rest versus rust. Well, it's 2 weeks. Like,
I mean, I just want to talk through my genius thought process that has gotten me to 12-6 on the year for the people watching, just in case they can try and take little tidbits from it. Anyways, I don't think it applies to a team as experienced as the Chiefs, and I think we come to a point where the Texans, when it was, what was the final, 31-12?
Yep.
Like that, if you didn't watch the game, that is not nearly like the Chargers were awful, but I think the Texans were equally as awful. I watched pretty much that entire game. The Texans were trying to lose it just as much as the Chargers were. It was a turnover fest. What you're not going to be able to afford to do against the Chiefs in the playoffs is turn the ball over. So now you take a team that enjoys playing in a dome. I'm not saying they're anything like the Dolphins, but then you take them outside to Arrowhead. I just think it's too much. You also have a bit of an iffy injury report. Again, it's early because of
Wednesday reports are meaningful.
I only have the Tuesday report open, actually. I'm not sure if Wednesday came out, but as of Tuesday, and the one that they said to watch out for, Azeez Al-Shire, one of their best defensive players and linebackers, he didn't play due to a knee injury. And that one looks like they have some other people that are banged up, but Al-Shire is the only one who looks like he may not be playing due to his injury, which I think is a big injury. And then you flip it to the other side. Obviously, with 2 weeks rest, you expect this, but everyone was practicing, and there's no injuries for the Chiefs on the other side.
Learn from your genius thought process.
Yeah.
Your handicap pitch sounded like you love the Chiefs on the money line, but I didn't really grasp like why they're going to win by double digits.
Why is that what I gave?
Well,
Like,
you're
if
just saying like the Chiefs are better, but that's why there's a point spread involved.
So what does that make any handicap?
Like they're significantly better for these reasons. Patrick Mahomes is 6-0 in the divisional round, has 13 touchdowns to 0 interceptions.
Because I didn't have EA's fucking nut
No,
all over my face. That's why my cap wasn't good enough.
I'm just saying, like, do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, he didn't really sell me on why the Chiefs are going to cover a big number. He's selling me on the Chiefs being the better team, but I think anyone with a penis.
No, I think they are the better team.
P or a V would know that.
Right. Even a V at this point with Taylor Swift, like, would know.
I'm saying by a wide margin. Like, Stroud still, like, everything we thought about the Texans going into the Chargers game and why the Chargers were a road favorite, in my opinion, stayed true. Like,
Sure.
I did not upgrade the Texans based off of their performance against the Chargers. And then you take that, the fact that they were, Tim, I'm going to need you to do this math for me, but if they were 2.5 at home against the Chargers and I didn't upgrade them, what would they be in when they played the last time? You know what I mean, what I'm trying to get at, that you do to guess the line.
I guess you would want to know the look ahead.
No, because then you could just go to the Texans Chiefs, but people still thought the Texans were good when they played the Chiefs that last time, and they had Tank Dell, and then you lose Tank Dell, and then we slowly but surely after that game continuously find out that the Texans actually are not good. And they had a ton of juice. I didn't see this beforehand, but it seems like they had a ton of juice from Rex Ryan calling them a bye week for the Chargers, and they used that as a little bit of an extra juice.
You're using motivation spots in the playoffs.
No juice for them.
No juice.
I think they are.
What about everyone counting them out? That doesn't count as juice?
I think they believe it.
Okay. No.
So essentially, it's Kansas City good, Houston bad.
Yeah.
Lay the points,
which
has been a sound strategy all season.
No, and I think people may get fooled, like big number, Houston 31-12 coming off a huge win against the Chargers. Like, I'm not getting fooled. Casuals, public may get fooled. This guy who's 12-6, not getting fooled.
No, I think that's fair. Like, saying you're not buying the box score, which is what we talk about, is definitely a more accurate.
Also, a Saturday midday game. I don't know the numbers. What was tune-in throughout the weekend? I feel like that's got to be the lowest.
What does that mean?
What does that have to do with anything?
Like, people, it goes to more people were just looking box score rather than actually watching the game.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, handicapping the Nielsen ratings actually could be, and then seeing how the public gambles. You know this because you're the best better.
We talk about this all the time. Like, they did this in prime time,
for sure,
and now we're here because all the eyeballs.
Every game is now standalone.
Wait,
I know, but I'm saying it may have been the least amount of eyeballs.
Time out. Hold on. So let me just get this straight. Casey saying the least amount of NFL bettors out of all the games watch that game. They see they beat the Chargers by 20. So what they're then going to do is convince them that they're better and they're going to fade Patrick Mahomes in January.
Well, you're getting a pretty big point spread against a team who struggled to cover a number the entire year. But I think we also all remember that we were speaking about it the last 3 weeks before that Broncos game. Like, oh, the Chiefs actually might be back, unfortunately. Right.
So,
but we are ball knowers, or me specifically. The public may not remember that because they could be like, oh, the Chiefs haven't covered 8.5 the entire year. They're getting 8.5 against a Texas team that just blew out someone by 20.
I guarantee you Houston will not be the public side.
Of course it won't be the public side, but I don't think this is a square pick, is my opinion.
No, I hear you. I think that the conversation is, why are big favorites continuing to cover? And why do big favorites cover in the playoffs in general? And I think it actually is this notion that, oh, it's a playoff game. Like, people couldn't conceive, I won't say, single them out on the screen right now, Uppy, that the Steelers could be 10-point underdogs to a divisional opponent in the playoffs who they know so well. Well, the Ravens are 3 touchdowns better than that shitstorm of a team. So that's the thing. People were like, Denver, Denver this, Denver that. It's like, well, the Bills are just significantly better than those teams. So,
well, you were part of that Denver.
I was not on Denver.
Okay.
I was on Buffalo. All right, Tim, what do you got for us? You got a lock?
Any thoughts on the
winner?
pick from either
Yeah,
of them?
I
Jack
have
did
a
a lot of
couple-
yapping.
I have a couple numbers just on the other side, a little devil's advocate as we like to do, but Texans defense has been pretty elite. I was doubting them, not so much doubting them, but counting on the Chargers tackles to really step up, and that wasn't quite the case. Are you concerned about arguably a worse Chiefs offensive line against an elite pass rush? Also, Texans defense, 10th DVOA against wide receiver ones, 12th against wide receiver twos, 10th against wide receiver threes, and 5th against the tight end. So a pretty stout unit against a Chiefs offense that we don't hold in the highest regard. Obviously, they've gotten some help, so they're playing much better earlier in the season. But historically, Mahomes as a touchdown or higher just doesn't really cover. Is that a concern of yours?
If I'm Andy Reid, their tackles are not amazing, but they have the best interior offensive line in the entire NFL. And now you take their best tackler out of the game. My game plan is lean on the run if I'm the Chiefs, which when they've lent on the run, they've found a lot of success, which may not allow Daniil and Will to just pin those ears back because they're more worried about setting an edge, playing a little run defense. I think they're going to play some good complementary football.
What if Aziz plays?
I still think they're going to have success on the ground with Creed, Tooney, and what's that big motherfucker from Tennessee's name?
Okay. So
we were with him at the Tennessee game. What's his name?
I think it's a fair point.
Tim, what's his fucking name? Trey Smith.
He is a big motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he was wearing his Super Bowl rings, which were huge.
They were huge. And they were huge on his big ass fucking mitts too, which shows those things really do have diamonds. I think that this is what gets people excited about Houston the same way it gets people excited, why it got people excited about Denver. And then we saw it play out. And I think that is why people are more in on Houston than they were obviously, 6 days ago when they were underdogs. You get two elite pass rushers and you've got an elite secondary with star power. And then not only do they play well, but they put points on the board and they create turnovers and they create havoc. And so people are like, oh shit, if there's anyone who could make this game interesting, it's that defensive unit. Well, what does Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs not do in the playoffs? They don't turn the ball over. They don't gift you anything. So that's why I don't mind laying the points.
What is Andy Reid on extended rest? Anyone have that?
He's a monster.
I have Mahomes on extended rest.
Yeah, I'll take that too.
Mahomes on extended prep. He has not played a game in 20. He has not been on the field in 24 days for a real football game. Mahomes 31-7 straight up, but 19-18-1 ATS on extended rest.
Got it. Okay. Tim, what do you think?
That's crazy. Wait, that's crazy. He's played that many games on extended rest.
Extended rest also counts. That one also counts like week ones, I believe.
No, I know, but it just goes to show how many friggin' buys he's had, how many primetime games they play. It's a crazy thing that I would guess, take someone else who's been in the league for 7 years. They might have 12 games on extended rest, 15.
Yeah, I guess. And when they've played in Super Bowls, they've had buys.
Super Bowl bye, week one, primetime, those are your spots.
It doesn't matter, but I'm on Houston here, and Houston for the first half as well, +6.
Why? I didn't get a chance to watch early lines.
The reason for me is Mahomes is a favorite of 7 or more. Mahomes is a favorite of 7 or more, 22-32-3 ATS. It's good for 41%. 5-1 as a favorite of 7 or more this season. ATS still 6-0 in those games. And
what about in the playoffs? Is there? I mean, I'm sure he wasn't. That there's not a huge data set, but does that change the calculation?
I could do it.
Because that is, I totally agree. Like, there's so many sleepy spots where you catch Mahomes is just 9-point favorite. Oh, they're gonna.
I don't think the reason is because sleepy. The reason for me is a underrated part of this, a often overlooked part of this Chiefs team is that they are the best team at putting away teams, and not just putting away in the sense of piling on points.
Right.
How often do we
Leading
see
clock.
the Chiefs up 4?
Yeah.
Like even if I have Houston, right, which I will, and Kansas City's up 4 with like 7 minutes left,
You feel
you know, or say up 5, 7 minutes, whatever it is, I trust them to not even kick.
Right.
7-minute drive, kneel it out, like do the whole throw the ball 300 feet in the air thing, let it land. They're a really smart football team when it comes to that. And I think that early in the Chiefs run, they played with their food a lot. To me, this is more about how they are at finishing games.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. They got bigger leads earlier by hitting big plays to like Tyreek, and they don't hit as many like over the top big plays, so it can't get piled on as quickly as it used to.
I'll tell you. Let me do 7 or more right now.
As you do that, they are elite defensively. They've got Patrick Mahomes. I don't think all their offensive issues have gone away, but at the same time, I just don't really see Houston scoring in this game. I mean, they need a little bit of a run game. They're not going to have anything through the ground based off what the Chiefs' run D has been this season.
Postseason 3-3 ATS is a favorite to 7.
Okay.
So, and I'll just to add on to this a little bit. This is the type of stuff I like from our guy EA. Since 2003, home teams in the divisional round coming off of a bye are 33, 42, and 1 ATS. What speaks to me here is not necessarily the rust of coming off of a bye, but the fact that the Chiefs this year in their first half spread numbers, last 2 years, Chiefs in the first half, 18-18 ATS. Meanwhile, Houston, they are 14-4 against the first half spread this season. D'Amico Ryans is 26-11 against the first half spread this season, 26-9 with CJ Stroud as his quarterback. So I like +6 for the first half. So there's also a low total. I understand it's outdoors. It's a dome team going outdoors, all those sort of things. I like the physicality of Houston's defense to help that. I just think it's really low scoring. And when I'm getting 8.5, the reason this is ballooned to me from when they first played each other not too long ago, one, the Chiefs' offense with Hollywood Brown has improved. The Chiefs were banged up in their secondary for that game. And on top of it, you can't quantify it, but Mahomes at home in the playoffs is got to be worth about like 3.5, 4 points. Like it really is. So I understand what I'm doing, okay, in playing with fire. And we all know the rules here. You play Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, but to me, you play Patrick Mahomes when the line's a little shorter. Yeah. I could look like I have egg on my face. I probably will, because Casey's handicap was one team's good, one team's bad, and that wins out these days.
Well, I'm just excited for next week. I mean, we could just pre-record Uppy on one side of, Mahomes -2.5 against Baltimore or Buffalo. Right. Like, that is loading, right, and will bring us full circle from that Niners bet earlier in the season. But we'll save that for next week.
Do you realize, though, like the first half spread being 6 in a game with a total that's 40.5?
And the total's 8.5. Like, the full 6 is bizarre. I've never even – normally you chop it at a point, like something along the – 6 is nuts. That's the full game line. Like you're less than a field goal off of it. So I'm with you there. All right. Congrats on your winner, Tim. What do you got? What's your best bet?
Well, that would have the first half bet would have been my best bet. Right. While we're here, if you want me to do the punts one, I can do the punts one.
Yeah, I mean,
give the punts. Give the punts.
I like hearing another one.
Okay. Probably my favorite bet of the weekend here. Washington, Detroit. Total punts in the game under 6.5, -145. This is these two teams rank 32nd and I believe 28th in punts per game from the regular season. We all know Detroit is allergic to punting. We know that their offense, should be humming. Total here being 55.5. And the reason I like it on the Washington side is I think that Dan Campbell recognizes, he showed from that game against the Buccaneers. He recognizes
Dan Quinn.
What did I say? Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn recognizes the situation, and he understands he's an underdog, and he's got to go. So that to me, I see minimal punts in this game, and even if, say, Washington punts 3 times to start the game or whatever, Detroit puts up points, makes you kind of like it even more. Because then, unless they are doing the Signetti, who else did that in the last couple of weeks?
It was
O'Connell just gave up.
No. We were at the what game were we at? The Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl. Lanning and
Oregon
Signetti. The Mercy punters. So I don't think that Washington's going to do that.
Yeah, I like that play a lot. 55.5 is a really ridiculous total. You got the fast track. Washington did not punt last game. They haven't punted in a while, actually. I mean, obviously the game against Dallas is an outlier.
They went through a phase this season for like 4 straight weeks where they didn't punt. So,
exactly. Yeah, it feels, I guess, give people context if you have any. What is a normal amount of punts in a game, right? So don't use Tampa, Washington because they didn't punt. Like, an average game. Usually
these books set these they set a 7.5, like a 5.5, and a like 4.5, and they just juice them all accordingly, right. For the game. So,
but like Houston KC is probably like a 7.5 minus 110, like something in that range.
Well, let's look it up. I'll tell you.
Because it's definitely, I want to make it clear to people, like, it's definitely 1 punt below average, and then it's juiced. So it's not like they're not aware of this bet,
right?
But there are many factors that, and this could be a softer market, right? Like, this is something that we don't talk a ton about, but there could be a slight edge at this point because I don't know how many people are playing the punt market.
The Kansas City Houston game is 8.5 total punts. Again, it's a very low total.
What's the juice?
The juice is to the over.
Okay.
Meanwhile, let's do
give us Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Really good offenses, colder weather, solid defenses.
I feel like this would be 6.5. Let's see.
Really? Like 7.5-ish.
And the book I'm looking at has not posted it. So thank you for that.
That's a good point to follow Tim on Pickett, because I had some trouble finding this, and I'm not going to say where I found it, but if you go to Pickett, you can just tail this directly. I had several people asking us, and that would be your easiest bet there.
Yeah. What's your
such a fire plug? Uppy.
What's your username on Pickett?
Uppy, can you tell me?
Is it Timmy Cow 12 or is it
Timmy K?
Timmy K. All right, so go to Timmy K.
He also puts out fire
NHL
picks.
Okay.
And,
all right.
If I just wasn't so horny and just played the NHL.
My best bet for the week is stemming off of Tim's pick, and it is the Lions laying the points. I think 9.5, 8.5, maybe at some books potentially. I'm not sure what contest lines we're using in our non-contests right now, but I'm going to the Lions. If you guys have been following me, you know how high I was on the Commanders, not just last week, but throughout the whole season. Felt like Jaden Daniels coming off a Heisman, 24 years old. Cliff Kingsbury as an OC, not as a head coach. I never really had a feeling on Dan Quinn. I think he's kind of shown decent coaching abilities this year. But I think this is where it ends. The Commanders have been the cardiac Commanders all season. Obviously, everyone remembers the Hail Mary against Chicago, but they've won their last 5 games on the last play of the game, last play from scrimmage. They have some, lucky results. What does a line of 9.5 show to me? It shows that, the Lions are the significantly better team in this situation. And I love my boy Sharenstein, whatever his name is. The Lions, I put them in my hot seat. I downgraded them significantly. That was a huge debate on the show. They've come out of that better, faster, stronger. And maybe Aaron Glenn is a messiah. Maybe he's one of the best defensive coaches in the league. Maybe it's Dan Campbell's culture. I couldn't tell you what it is, but there's something special, and they just are making it work. The next man up approach has really clicked for them. They're unstoppable in offense. They're an elite defense. They're facing a rookie quarterback who, I've talked about is not as much of a rookie, but is still young.
You can't use that both ways.
You
man.
can, though, because
now he has an actual playoff game under his belt on the road.
But
with his back against
right,
the wall.
but okay, so you talk about extended rest, you talk about bye, you talk about scheme. No, they didn't technically have, additional preparation, but the second that field goal doinked off the post, they're going at it. There's a level in the playoffs, and we just saw it with Sam Darnold, and I don't know if the Bucs imposed that on them. These are some of the smartest coaches in the NFL at this point. Not Dan Campbell. He's the grit of the team. But I don't know. I think there is a skill gap. There's a legit home field advantage in a high total. I think that we've talked about this before. 8.5 in a Houston-Kansas City game when the total is 40 versus 9.5 when the total is 55. Or is it 55? That's fucking insane.
55.5.
Yeah. So the Lions have the highest team total of the entire NFL season in 32. So I just think that 9.5 looks big in a playoff game when this Jaden kid is special, but it feels like it's a building year, and it's like, boom, all right, we hit the monster that is Detroit. They've been the best team all year, and I think it's just time to recognize that.
All right, I need you guys to help me because I don't understand what the difference of his handicap to my handicap about the Lions being better than the Commanders were. Because his is actually a little different in the sense of he actually thinks the Commanders are good, where I don't even think the Texans are good.
So
I was asking them.
Okay.
His handicap. One of the only holes I'll poke here is, if you remember, is the guy who had Detroit power rated 3 points better than the Chicago Bears.
I said that, and then I upgraded them after they fixed all this shit. So continue if you want to answer Casey's question.
It is a similar handicap.
Okay, thank you.
That's not true at all. That's not
it's
similar
very
handicap?
similar. It's fine, but so you've
But
upgraded
I mean,
the
it's
Lions.
worth noting that
that's
I
not
actually,
true at all.
I actually mentioned the team that I'm betting against is not good. He's saying the team he's betting on actually is good.
Okay, here you go.
Give me the difference.
The difference is, I stated there is a high total. 9.5 is a very different percentage into 55 than 8.5.
No, that's
is
a good point.
40.
That's
number two. I stated,
but that's also
number
a little
two.
Wait, real quick.
Yeah.
That's also a little different when speaking about. You agree. You don't see how the Texans are going to score. So mine's more about that the Lions are going to blow the Commanders. Like, they're not going to be able to stop them. And mine's like the Chiefs are going to be able to score and Houston won't. It's the same thing, just with a different. One's offense overload and one's defense overload.
I legitimately don't think you mentioned that Houston wasn't going to be able to score. I said that. Okay. Number two, I said I'm talking about the fact that people are kind of in love with Daniels right now. So they're overrating.
That's what I said about Houston. Okay. Coming off the 33-12.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just matching point for point.
Okay. Then I mentioned that I think people are higher on Dan Quinn because he went for on fourth down. I'm toning that down a bit.
Right. I said that the Chargers that the Texans had some fake motivation. I mean, your Dan Quinn, people are high on Dan Quinn is the same bullshit fucking point as the Texans having.
No, that's reflected in these things. Like the line will shift. People will bet on stuff based on it's a conglomerate of issues.
Jack, to not even mention Jared Goff indoors is an absolute disservice. 34-13-1 ATS. Because that would help your point. He's an absolute monster indoors. All they do is cover indoors.
Mentioning
they only play indoors to me.
Mentioning Dan Campbell, just ATS last 3 years.
Right.
By the way, I'm not saying I don't like your handicap.
I like the Chiefs.
I'm just saying You did the exact same thing as me, except I said the team
No,
I'm
I
betting
just
against is
described-
bad,
I just
and you
des-
said the team you're betting against is good.
No, I didn't. I just described that I think that the Lions are going to maul the Commanders.
That's what I said about the Chiefs.
No, you didn't.
Okay, sorry.
No, Casey, you're like you're doing well. You've been successful on the show. You're a lot more fun to play with. You're like
Sure.
you're like the kitty that we can like put the laser pointer on the ground and you're like and
Always.
you kind of fall for it.
Yeah.
Jack, when you start to play with him, he just like bites you. And then
Yeah.
it's just like, like when you come at him, it's the stubborn wall it's just, you can't.
That's why
I'm open.
That's why I wanted to break it down.
I'm open.
That's why I wanted to break it down point for point, just so like we could just, go along.
Well,
So
the difference is that Jack has every team power rated in his head currently, so it's tough to argue against his Caps.
All right. Go ahead. Who's next?
I'm going with the Eagles -6. This is a tough spot for the Rams. They are now going cross country to one of the most difficult places to play. Outdoors, going to be about 37 degrees. Over the last 3 years, Stafford has played one game at 40 degrees or lower. That was this year against the Jets. They put up 19 points, barely covered in that game. Did not look great. Now, against a Philly team that looked terrible on offense. So if we get a semblance of offense from Philadelphia, I think this is going to be a blowout. Rams coming off a game with 9 sacks, NFL record. Well, now they're going to be playing the most elite offensive line in the NFL. Lane Johnson, 0 sacks allowed, 1 quarterback hit allowed, 94% pass block win rate. Sorry. This is also an Eagles offensive line. They average 2 rushing yards before contact, which is the highest in the NFL. For a little context, the league average is 1.1 yards. This is a Rams defense. They rank 21st in the NFL, allowing 128 rushing yards per game. So you get Saquon getting out there before any sort of contact. This is just a strength against a weakness. I think Philly is going to blow them out. Hurts way better at home, 18-13-1 ATS. I just think this is a really tough matchup for a Rams team that, is going to be in a tough spot. Short week, but I will say McVay on short rest, 16-7 ATS. So not a concern there. You're getting a way better coach in McVay, which is probably my biggest concern on the Philly side, but I think they'll make up for that with an elite defense, elite O-line, just a really good spot for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'll pile on. Saquon ran for like 232, I think, last time out. That game was on the road in SoFi. Rams, I would say, a much different team this time around, but I do wonder how much.
Why are they a different team?
They were super injured throughout the season.
I feel like that was later in the season, though.
No, it was
they were more
right.
healthy.
It was right, and it was right in the middle. Not right in the crux of it, but they were still coming out of it. They peaked the final quarter of the season, I would say. They won like 5 in a row, last 6. So that was coming off of that loss. No concern with Jalen Hurts, though. Does that concern you at all? Laying a touchdown with a quarterback who really looks poor?
No, that certainly is a concern. But if you're getting just a slightly better offensive performance from last week, which was abysmal, I just don't see how the Rams score. Eagles secondary against, their strength is obviously their wide receivers. Now you got Quinyon Mitchell straight up on Puka, try to limit him a bit. And Cooper Kupp just kind of looks like a shell of himself recently. So I'm not super concerned there. I just don't see how the Rams are going to put up enough points.
Yeah, as someone who had Eagles team total under 26.5 on Sunday, the fact that, if Saquon doesn't go down, I lose that bet. And their offense was atrocious. It reminds me a lot of the Ravens offense and a little bit of Buffalo right now, where they could even have these moments where they don't look great. And then all of a sudden you look at the scoreboard and it's like they scored 3 touchdowns, right? And they Kyron's injury concerns a little concerning for me as well. I do want to point out, because there's this big narrative around, when LA team, I think what Tim will mention, and he did with Houston, is dome team going outside, we definitely see effects. And so that may be, a little more truer. But Jalen Hurts is from Houston, Texas. AJ Brown is from Mississippi. They both played in the SEC. So I think there's definitely, because of what the Dolphins have done to people's brains with like warm weather team goes to the coldest game in the history of the league and like puts up an absolute donut. That Miami culture is like completely different than McVay and what that team is able to do. So the cold weather doesn't scare me as much. I believe that, Stafford and McVay went to Green Bay on the road, won that game, against Aaron Rodgers on their was that their Super Bowl run or was it the year prior? I'm forgetting. But like, I just think sometimes that stuff gets overblown. What doesn't, though, is in cold weather, winds play the biggest factor. It's not as much about the cold. It's a lot more about that. Rushing teams, Eagles, top rush offense in the league, versus passing teams. Like, yes, a rushing team is going to be an advantage versus a passing team.
They lost to Green Bay in the divisional round in 2020.
2020. I thought they went back there and played them. Did they not? They didn't play on the road? Maybe I'm thinking of Tampa.
So 2017, 2018 season, it's when they lost the Super Bowl to New England. Didn't have to go outdoors. 2018, 19 season, they don't make the playoffs. The 2020 season, they win at Seattle, 30-20, and then lost at Green Bay in the divisional round.
That's Goff, though, right? I think Stafford's 21.
Okay, so Stafford 21, they win the Super Bowl, never had to play anywhere. They went Dome, Arizona, at Tampa Bay, San Francisco.
It's the fact that Stafford just hasn't done this. He hasn't done this in 3 years. He's done it.
My counter to the weather thing, and I'm not putting a ton of stock into it either. However, I know that those players that you mentioned are from southern, warmer climates. A lot of what people say is that it's the experience of playing in the cold. The first time you do it, you don't wear the scuba suit. And you're like, wow, I freeze my ass off. The second time you do it, then you throw his hand warmers. You realize how your body reacts to this. Stafford just hasn't done it like at all. I think this Philadelphia team has been like, it profiles as a pretty hard nose. The cold is a good thing for Philly, in my opinion.
Agreed. That was all I was saying, was sometimes it gets overblown and people like to reference an LA versus Philly, but it's not always applicable. But like, yes, Buffalo playing with the wind and on the lakes and having experience in that is definitely a valuable thing, implying that others haven't done it.
Even if James Cook went to Georgia.
Exactly. I just think it can go. It wouldn't shock me if LA won in Philly and their pass game looked good because, they can complete a pass in the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Uppy's handicap on LA's offense. It sounds like Higbee is gonna play.
Yeah, he's a good.
But that is, I think this offense, though he's played just a few games, I think their offense is better, more comfortable with him. The Cup situation, the form that he is in, I worry about them scoring points.
They also, and it was part of why I liked Minnesota. I went back to the well in Minnesota, hoping Darnold would not do what he has done the last 2 weeks. Their offense sputtered all through that final quarter of the season. Like, it was really their defense that carried them a lot of the way. You had that Niners game on Thursday night. I mean, they weren't even scoring touchdowns. Kyron's putting the ball on the ground. He put the ball on the ground twice against Minnesota. So there's definitely concerns, and Darnold covering up. Because I wouldn't say the Rams' performance on offense, like that first drive, they definitely came out with a game plan. And if you want to reference 2018, I know it was a different quarterback, but Fangio, that was who kind of stumped McVay, right? That was that Super Bowl. So they've played many times since. McVay's had success, and that's
Fangio was the
I thought
Fangio.
I thought it was a Fangio defense that stumped McVay. I thought that was the conversation. He wasn't the Pats DC though; it was Flores.
Yeah, no, not.
Yeah.
Did Bill credit Fangio with like he copied Fangio's game plan? Is that what happened?
I don't know. I knew that was like a talking point that I had seen. So yeah, you do not have to officially quote me on that. But yeah,
hold on, Fangio he was in Chicago that year, I believe. Okay. And that year the Rams lost 15-6 at Chicago in week 14. And that was the fewest points they scored all season.
And that was, that's that year where the Rams offense was unstoppable. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to dig deeper. That's not my best bet for the week, like Uppy. I figured he would have the Fangio McVay angle down pat.
So now,
no, that's a good point, Jay. That's a salient point.
Well, when someone said in our Super Bowl preview that having Fangio as your DC was a good thing, that was an awful point.
I like Fangio.
Those coordinators, though, meant nothing. Now, all of a sudden, I'm sitting on an Eagles ticket.
Oh, my God. You handicapped Tua playing in primetime as a good thing.
By the way, primetime is what won someone the MVP. So my theory was there. I just went
His thesis is fair. I mean, that is...
I just went too long.
I like the idea of the thesis. I really... It's actually clever.
Yeah. I'm actually the sharpest motherfucker out here,
but what we're realizing. The only problem was you created... It was like saying equals MC squared and then testing it with like... I don't even know what a good comp is.
Yeah.
But, like you just put
with
worst...
my socks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tua didn't end up being great. But did anyone give out Lamar? No.
We all went like 12 or higher. That's kind of like what we did.
That was like literally the process. The video was like, look, realistically, the MVP is going to come from these 4 guys, but that's not fun. So let's give you a bunch.
No, that's what everyone chose to do. That was
not. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I've had enough here. All
right. Anything else? Anyone have any long shots? Any sneakies? Any? Should we talk Bills Ravens just to give the people?
Sure.
Yeah. Tim, what side do you like, or do you not like a side?
I'm on the Ravens.
Opener or even at -1.5?
You come on. What number do you think I got?
+1.5.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the discussion we had that we decided to save for the show. So I got on and I said, as someone who's following this line closely and has followed, like, there was never a world to me where the Ravens closed at plus money. That I knew. Did I think it would get to 1.5? Like, kind of, but it wouldn't have shocked me if it just landed pick and the sports book. So why would someone open a line at -1.5? And you're saying that's because that's how they power rate it?
Yeah. I mean, I have Buffalo power rated better
than Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that is like not the craziest thing in the world.
I think that is the craziest thing in the world. So I want to understand where those power ratings come from. Like, what unit? What is it? Coaching? Is it special teams? Is it like offense, defense? How do you formulate that power rating?
I said this in the guess the line or in the early bets. Me and I think a lot of other people weigh heavily the Bills have the sexiest wins. They have the best. They have probably the best 2 wins. Detroit and Kansas City, and that is what it gets you a big upgrade. And so in Baltimore's stats, like people that are more aggregate DVOA, that sort of stuff. Baltimore's stats are better than Buffalo's. That kind of feeds into the whole MVP argument. But team as a whole, listen, the Ravens went through that fit this year with their secondary and finding that identity. Like, it just the entirety of the whole thing. And look, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you can even call the Bills a pubic hair better, and then they just gave home field. I mean, this line right now, 1.5. Baltimore laying 1.5 is pretty ridiculous. You're saying this thing's like, oof, 3 on a neutral? I'm not so sure.
Could you at least see that like I always get caught up. So I guess this is where the confusion comes from is you're setting a number at the beginning of the season and then you're just adjusting it based on a series of events, which is why like you won't have big swings.
Yeah,
which
but
is good, right? Because you don't want to overreact to certain things, but there are things that need overreacting to over, a 4-week stretch or a 6-week stretch. Like you could have Commanders, right? They've probably moved what from week 1 until now?
Oh,
6
astronomical.
points, 7, 8 points. Is there a playoff power rating to you? Like you mentioned Mahomes, right?
Well, that's
like,
where it gets messy. That's just that's where it gets messy. And people that play numbers versus playing the other things, it kind of takes those stones to be like, oh, I'm overlooking my power ratings, like because of this, because of that. Like a lot of people had, for instance, what the Chiefs have done with Mahomes as a dog, Mahomes as a short favorite. That's just a lot of people had Philly power rated better than Kansas City going to that Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and it was just how can you bet against Patrick Mahomes? And those things are a factor. I am playing Baltimore because I'm just picking the game. And whether I've been brainwashed by you two or not, I'm picking the game.
See, that's the thing. Like, I do think Baltimore like has a very good claim to be 3 points better. To me, the only reason you wouldn't want to lay points in this game or that line doesn't make sense is because you have fears about Lamar. Like
this is again my guy Sam Hoppin, who does the composite power ratings. This is going into week 16. The composite power ratings had Buffalo and Baltimore as the 2 best teams in the league, tied as 7.3 better than an average team. Tied. NetFlow had Buffalo at 2, Baltimore at 5. FPI, Baltimore at 4, Buffalo at 2. Impeccable, Baltimore at 3, Buffalo at 2. Baltimore at 3, Buffalo at 2. Like this was pretty. DVOA had Baltimore at 1, Buffalo at 4.
Right.
So it just kind of depends.
Yeah. No, it definitely depends on. I mean, what do you think?
I think if you played this in a dome with no home field, I would make us 3.5 point favorites. But I think in a dome,
and you play the game 1,000 times,
and it's a 1-game sample size, and it's not the playoffs. But then you bring the cold, the Lamar playoff thing, and just that whole aura that scares the shit out of Ravens.
I do think Zay, like it's funny because we've talked about how much you upgrade, downgrade team, Devontae Adams, all that stuff. Like Zay Flowers is a big downgrade for me for the Ravens. I know it's not the personnel that they want to be in anyways. They want to play this big, heavy personnel, force Buffalo to get base defense on the field, but
he's in the game even if we're in that set.
What do you mean?
Like he would be.
Sure. But I'm saying when the Ravens, like when you go from Zay Flowers, remove him, wide receiver 1, Rashad Bateman, wide receiver 2, Tylan Wallace, Nelson Aguilar, Steve Sims. Like there's in the MVP voting, it was this whole thing about separation, but that was the Ravens' depth. It was super weak at wide receiver. They just got 2 outlying performances from those guys. So you move one of them, it's going to make a huge difference. And we saw that against Pittsburgh. Like, yeah, we were successful throwing the ball, but if we're in 3rd and long, that's going to be tough. So I don't think enough actually value could get put on Zay. I think the Ravens are the better team, but we know what's happened in the playoffs before. So I thought, like, did you think the Ravens were better than the Chiefs last year in the AFC Championship? Everyone did. Like everyone thought the spread was too short because the Ravens weren't that much better. Well, Lamar folded and they freaked out, and that's the stuff that you can't measure. And it's why it's nice to have Patrick friggin' Mahomes and a plus money ticket. But what's the All right, call it now. Baltimore wins. What's the line? Opener in Arrowhead. How are you playing it? And where does it land?
Oh, that is really tough. Oh, Baltimore at KC.
There's no way that they lay a 3, right? A full 3.
That's what I'm saying.
There's just no way. They will, because if you're saying this is based on power ratings, there's no way Kansas City is Baltimore's going to beat Buffalo on the road, and then people aren't going to be like they got to be power rated close to KC.
So when
I guess there is a chance they could lay the 3.
when they played week 2,
Week 1.
oh, that was in Kansas City, right?
Yep,
That was
yep,
okay.
yep.
That line was Kansas City 2.5.
And I think we're power rated better and they're power rated worse.
But playoffs, like that is,
but I think playoffs goes out of the window if we go to Buffalo and win.
It could.
How about?
But then the Mahomes is a short favorite has been talked about even more, and the fact that they've only won games and people like they're gonna kill Houston according to you for all your amazing points earlier, and like now people are like, all right, well the Chiefs, they're going to the Super Bowl, they're about a 3-peat, you know. So
yeah, but for your Mahomes short favorite, you have Lamar underdog, who is equally as impressive. So like I don't know what the fuck to do.
No, it's that's why I think it's such a fun conversation.
I think if both cover.
Okay. There's no way it's a 3.
I think Baltimore opens 1 if both cover.
Ravens is favorites?
1 point favorite.
No.
No,
you don't think?
No.
Why not?
We'd be favorites.
Opener. All right. First of all, opener. You think they open the Ravens as favorites?
Yeah.
1.
Both.
Because I think all the sharps are gonna feel.
I think it's 3 on a neutral right now.
No, I agree with you, but there's no way.
All the sharps are going to feel vindicated for the whole DVOA thing. Like, this team is better. They beat Buffalo, and then they're going to be ready to hop back on, believing that they're also better than KC.
But there's going to be all that KC plus money.
Yeah,
no, KC plus money would come from the public.
No. That'll
KC,
come from the
okay, fine. KC opens 1.
Yeah.
Because if they open Baltimore 1, they have no problem getting KC money.
Exactly.
No, it's a good conversation. I would, not that one game should matter, but just how they kind of look should.
For sure.
Kind of help this.
Well, I think, we say one game shouldn't matter, but there's total, like, if Lamar looks like Lamar of past, but if Lamar looks like MVP Lamar, and by the way, it's not even the Lamar side. I'm equally as interested. What does the Baltimore defense look like? Everyone's posted that stat, number 1 DVOA in literally every statistic since week 11. They haven't played anyone since week 11. So if they shut down Allen, then yes, I actually could see them opening as favorites. My
difficulty is not like what's the difference between the two teams, who's going to get money. I don't know. Kansas City is by far the hardest handicap this year. Or like they're like Jet-like, except they overperform.
Both great teams. Yeah.
Well,
both are great.
And so in the Mahomes factor, like that, I don't know. I would not want to be a bookmaker setting a line like that because I think Chiefs are a very tough team to take the temperature on.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a bookmaker this year, anyways. When you got sharps like Casey just fucking crushing.
Uppy, what side would you be on in the AFC Championship?
Just whatever team's underdog.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Because I feel like you resemble a really good pulse of like, I feel like it will be hard, but you would click Mahomes plus money at home in Arrowhead before you would click Lamar plus money on the road at Mahomes, I feel like.
No, I would legitimately take either team as plus money. I don't even care. I think it's a coin flip.
He bets numbers, not teams.
No, he does. Is it fair to say that no one's going to, like right now, if I'm not mistaken, there isn't a plus money team. Like I think it's Baltimore minus 120, Buffalo minus 106, or like some bullshit like that. It's essentially pick on the money line market. Like, all right, take that, Uppy. If it's minus 120 and minus 106, both sides in the AFC Championship, are you just not betting the game?
I'm of course gonna bet the game. I don't know. That's way fucking tougher because
we're also so dumb because they have these hypotheticals up.
Right, but as we just yes, that will help with openers. But
I wish I knew. I wish I looked.
I'm more interested in the conversation of like, where does it go? All right, so what's the hypothetical?
KC 1.5.
Yeah.
Juice to Baltimore, heavily.
Yeah. That game's as pick as it gets, and it will be sharps and squares. Like the Baltimore's going to get all the real money, and then the fake money will come on Kansas City, and then they're going to show Taylor Swift in a suite, and they're going to win the game on some bullshit. And we're going to play the stat of Mahomes as a short favorite. And then we know the Lions are going to run through, their games. So they're going to lay a point, and then the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. And it's just like, we should just ask ChatGPT, like, how to do this. And they would probably spit back, like, yeah, Patrick Mahomes seems like a good bet based off my analysis.
Yeah, let's just do that next week. It'll save us an hour. We can just post that.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah, I have to pee. Can we be done?
We may. Best of luck this weekend. We'll see you in Atlanta.